Now, Nietzsche actually said at some point that because the noble instinct comes from who you are. If you simply believe that you're noble, that's enough, because the nobility believes in itself. And that sounds good, and I understand why he said it, and it's true on some levels, but I don't know. I think Nietzsche was wrong about that. I've obviously been involved in a lot of politics on the far right and dealing with a lot of people, there are a lot of dudes who read a little bit of Julius Evola and think they're aristocrats of the soul. And they sit in front of their little computers all day and argue with each other online, and they suck. And they're not aristocrats of anything. Just because you believe that you're an aristocrat and you're noble and you believe in a certain way of life doesn't mean a goddamn thing. You can sit and believe that you're as fantastic as you want to be, but I don't think that's enough. I think that you still have to go out and do the best you can to earn that. If you have to embody the thing that you want to be, you can't just believe that you're better than everybody else. That's a really good way to get delusional and silly. I believe that the best way to fight the empire of nothing, which is what I've talked about, especially in my book, Becoming a Barbarian, as kind of the anti-identity world, the world that hates masculinity, this kind of leveling society that we all have. The best way to fight this nothingness is to create an empire of something. Become a creative force in your own world. Become a namer of names, a maker of values. You may never have the opportunity to take part in some great battle. The world may never collapse and the zombies may never come, but you can put all of that energy into building a world around you that is better, into creating your own positive culture, instead of focusing on everything that is wrong in what I would call a comic book dystopia, because it really is. Our world is ridiculous. So I was talking about all these problems about, because if you write about these things, the people that are in league with the blue-haired lady, they'll shut you down. There are people, I've known people who have lost their websites, have been shut down, like, you're saying something we won't tolerate anymore. And I was talking to a friend who's very familiar with these problems, and he said to me, the answer to all of these problems is creation. You don't like what the media is doing, make your own media. No one wants to talk about your project that you're working on, make a website, talk about it yourself, put it out there. We have that capability right now for as long as that lasts. If rather than focusing on these problems, how are we going to fix these problems, come up with your own solution and put it out there. And this, I kind of think that this is a different aspect of masculinity. Something that people have associated with masculinity for a long time. This kind of generative aspect of masculinity. Throughout history and in many religions, masculinity has been seen as a generative force in the universe. It's the creative spark, the initiator, the inseminator. Man as a maker of worlds. So I'm calling this generative masculinity, and I don't want to confuse it with the tactical virtues, because I think those are kind of basic masculinity. But I didn't associate, when I wrote The Way of Men, I didn't talk about raising a family or things like that. And the reason why is because there are plenty of 18-year-old heroes who died and never had families, and I'm not going to say that they're not men. So this is part of masculinity, but it's kind of an add-on module, and it's an important part of life. Whether for some of you that's going to be raising a family, that's going to be the creative thing that you do in your life. And that's where this idea of generative masculinity really comes from throughout history. But that's not the only thing. I was on a podcast one time.